The morning was gray, and the air carried the weight of rain as mourners filled the Grand Cathedral in Hartford, Connecticut. They came to grieve and honor Evelyn Carter, a woman whose quiet grace had touched countless lives. Her coffin, surrounded by pale pink lilies, her favorite, stood at the altar like a final tribute to her elegance and kindness. The hushed murmur of sorrowful voices blended with the gentle patter of rain against the stained glass windows, creating a somber yet reverent atmosphere. Yet, not everyone was mourning. Upstairs, away from the heartfelt farewells, Logan Carter, Evelyn's 68-year-old husband, and a real estate tycoon, sat in a private lounge. His phone glowed with unread messages, and his lips curled into a faint, distracted smile. For a man who had just lost his wife of 45 years, Logan exuded no trace of grief. Instead, his eyes darted impatiently between his phone screen and the door. Mr. Carter, Claire Adams, the family housekeeper of 3 decades, spoke softly, her voice trembling with disbelief. "The service is about to begin. Everyone is waiting." Logan barely glanced up. "They can wait 5 more minutes," he said curtly, his tone dismissive. He checked his watch, tapping it twice to hurry time itself. Claire hesitated, her hands clutching the edge of her apron tightly. She had served the Carter household faithfully for years, but today, for the first time, she felt an unfamiliar and unwelcome emotion, contempt. Something was deeply wrong. The reason for Logan's delay soon became apparent. A figure emerged from the shadows of the hallway, a striking woman in her mid-40s. Linda Blake, a marketing executive with sharp cheekbones and confidence, entered the room. She was dressed in an inappropriately tight black dress, and around her neck gleamed a pearl necklace unmistakable to anyone who had known Evelyn. It was her necklace. Evelyn had worn it every day for decades, symbolizing the love and loyalty she and Logan had promised each other when they built their first home together. And now, just days after her passing, the necklace adorned another woman's neck. "Isn't it exquisite?" Linda whispered, twirling the pearls between her manicured fingers as she leaned closer to Logan. "It complements the dress perfectly." Logan's gaze lingered on her with approval. "You wear it beautifully," he said, his voice lower now, almost conspiratorial. Claire watched this exchange from the staircase, her heart heavy with anger and disbelief. The housekeeper knew Evelyn had spent her final weeks tending to the garden she loved, even as her body weakened from chemotherapy. Those pearls had been Evelyn's armor, her reminder of promises made long ago. To see them here, displayed so brazenly on this woman, was a betrayal too deep to put into words. Downstairs, the whispers had begun. "Is that Evelyn's necklace? Who is she?" He brought his mistress to the funeral? The quiet judgment of the crowd rose like a storm, but Logan seemed immune to it all. As the service began and mourners wiped tears from their eyes, Logan's announcement of a post-funeral gathering at the Carter estate felt less like a gesture of gratitude and more like a formality. Unbeknownst to the guests, Linda had already made herself home there, clearing Evelyn's belongings to make room for herself. But upstairs, Claire's mind raced as she recalled Evelyn's words just days before her passing. Words that hinted at secrets locked away, waiting to surface. Claire clutched her apron tighter, determined to uncover whatever Evelyn had left behind. The rain fell harder as the service ended, but the storm was just beginning inside the Carter family. Later that evening, as mourners shuffled out of the cathedral, Logan Carter drove Linda Blake to the sprawling Carter estate. The mansion, perched atop a hill surrounded by immaculate gardens, stood as a monument to Evelyn's devotion. Every corner bore her meticulous touch, from the hand-picked antique furniture to the freshly cut lavender she consistently placed in the foyer. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy. Claire Adams stood frozen in the grand hallway as Linda strode in, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floors. She walked with the confidence of someone who believed she already belonged. Logan trailed behind, tugging at his tie and muttering about needing a drink. Linda paused in the center of the room, her eyes scanning the space. "This house needs a modern touch," she announced, her voice slicing through the silence. "It's too traditional. Logan, we should redecorate. I have some ideas for the main bedroom already." Claire's stomach churned. The main bedroom, Evelyn's sanctuary, was untouched since her passing, a place Claire hadn't dared to enter out of respect. Yet Linda, with no regard for the memory of the woman who had built this life with Logan, seemed eager to strip it bare. As Linda made her way up the sweeping staircase, Claire followed at a distance, compelled by a sense of duty to protect what was left of Evelyn's legacy. Upstairs, Linda flung open the door to the main bedroom, her expression turning to one of mild disgust. These heavy drapes? Hideous. The color scheme? Depressing. This room needs life. She began rifling through Evelyn's belongings as though they were clutter, pulling dresses off hangers and tossing them into boxes. Claire stepped forward, her voice trembling with barely contained anger. "Ms. Blake," she said, her hands clenched at her sides, "Mrs. Carter's things. They're not yours to touch." Linda turned slowly, her lips curling into a mocking smile. "Oh, Claire, don't be so sentimental. Logan wants this house to feel fresh. It's what Evelyn would have wanted." Claire stared at her, speechless. The audacity and the lack of decency were much to bear. As Linda resumed her desecration, Claire's eyes caught something glinting in the dim light. Beneath a pile of discarded photo albums, a silver-framed wedding photo of Evelyn and Logan lay face down, the glass cracked. Gently, Claire picked it up, her fingers brushing against the frame. As she did, a sealed envelope slipped out from behind it. Written in Evelyn's unmistakable, elegant handwriting were the words, "To be opened upon my death, to my true love." Claire's breath hitched. Her fingers trembled as she slipped the envelope into her apron pocket, her heart pounding. Evelyn had left this for someone, and Claire knew whatever it contained was important. "Claire." Logan's voice barked from the hallway. "Bring us some wine, would you?" She nodded quickly, retreating downstairs. But as she poured the wine, her mind raced. Evelyn's letter was a puzzle piece, and Claire was determined to uncover the whole picture. The following day, why Evelyn's will was Soriads in the estate study. Logan, impeccably dressed and feigning composure, sat confidently at the head of the table. Linda sat beside him, wearing a smug smile and Evelyn's pearls as though she already owned everything. Claire stood silently in the corner, clutching her apron, the sealed letter tucked safely inside. She watched the lawyer, Mr. Benson, meticulously unfold the will and adjust his glasses. As per Mrs. Carter's wishes, he began, "A portion of her estate will be donated to local charities, including the women's shelter she founded 20 years ago." Logan smirked, barely containing his impatience. Yes, we know Evelyn was charitable. Let's move on to the important part." Mr. Benson cleared his throat, ignoring Logan's rudeness. "The remaining assets, including the Carter estate, the real estate company, and the financial accounts, have been placed into a private trust." Logan leaned forward, his smile faltering. "A trust?" "Yes," the lawyer confirmed. "The trust will be managed by a foundation dedicated to empowering senior women in entrepreneurship, a project Mrs. Carter began planning shortly before her passing." The room fell silent. Logan's face turned pale, and Linda's smug expression dissolved into shock. "What are you talking about?" Logan demanded, his voice rising. "That's my estate. I built this empire with Evelyn." Mr. Benson raised a hand calmly. Mrs. Carter left a video message for this occasion. It might help clarify her intentions. The lawyer pressed play on a screen set up in the corner. Evelyn's image appeared vibrant and composed despite the unmistakable frailty of her final days. "Hello, Logan," she began, her voice steady and firm. "If you're watching this, I'm gone. And if Linda is sitting beside you, wearing my pearls, then I was right about everything." The room erupted into gasps. Logan's jaw tightened as Linda's face turned crimson. Evelyn's recorded voice continued, unwavering. "Logan, I trusted you once. I believed in the promises we made when we built our first home and our first business together. But over the years, I learned that your loyalty was as fleeting as the profits you chased. You thought I overlooked your betrayals, your lies, your indiscretions. But I did." Evelyn's eyes seemed to pierce through the screen. "You taught me everything I needed to know about business, Logan. And over 45 years, I built something far greater than an empire of real estate. I built a plan to ensure that your greed and deceit could no longer harm the people around you. Logan slumped in his chair as the weight of her words pressed down on him. I've transferred most of our assets into a foundation that will outlive us both, Evelyn declared. A foundation designed to give women like me a chance to reclaim their power. As for you, Logan, you'll receive 25% of the company, on one condition. You will teach business courses at the foundation for 30 hours a week for the next year. Everything, including 25%, will be liquidated and donated if you refuse. The choice is yours. Linda shot up from her seat. This is absurd. You can't let her do this, she yelled at Logan. But Evelyn wasn't finished. And Linda, she said, her tone turning icy, you may think you've won, but you're wrong. Every corner of this estate, every piece of jewelry, every memory still belongs to me. And they always will. Enjoy the pearls. They're just as fake as your affection. The video ended abruptly, leaving the room in stunned silence. Logan Carter had nothing to say for the first time in his life. He stared at the screen, his empire crumbling before him, as Claire slipped quietly out of the room. Evelyn's letter burned like a secret waiting to be unleashed in her pocket. Claire sat at the small wooden table in her modest quarters, hands trembling as she unfolded the envelope Evelyn had left behind. The letter inside, written in Evelyn's unmistakable, elegant cursive, carried more weight than she could have imagined. To my dearest Claire, it began. By the time you read this, I'll be gone, and the world I leave behind will likely feel as shattered as I often did. But you've always been more than just a housekeeper, my confidant, friend, and silent witness to all that has transpired in this house. You deserve to know the truth. I stood by Logan's side for decades as he built an empire, but I knew from the beginning that his loyalty was to power, not to me. He didn't know I kept everything, every receipt, document, and lie. And I've used it to regain control of the empire he thought he owned. Claire's eyes widened as she read further. The foundation I've established isn't just a philanthropic gesture. It's a lifeline for women who have been underestimated, sidelined, and silenced. But it's also a weapon. Everything Logan built was tainted by greed, and now, every piece of it will be used to empower those he tried to overshadow. Claire, there's one more thing. I left something behind for you. It's hidden in the garden, beneath the old rose trellis. You'll find it buried there, proof of the life Logan tried to erase and a key to something greater. Protect it and share it with those who need it most. When the time is right. The letter ended simply. Thank you for standing by me, even when I didn't have the strength to stand alone. With love and gratitude, Evelyn. Claire pressed the letter to her chest, her breath shaky. Beneath the trellis? With its meticulous rows of roses, Evelyn's garden had always been her sanctuary. Now, it held secrets that could shatter the fragile facade Logan had built. The following day, Claire ventured into the garden under the cover of dawn. The air was incredible, and dew clung to the petals of Evelyn's beloved roses. She knelt beside the weathered trellis, her hands sinking into the soft soil. After minutes of digging, her fingers grazed something solid. She unearthed a small, weathered box, its surface etched with delicate carvings. Inside, she found a collection of old photographs, letters, and a USB drive. The photographs told a story Evelyn had never shared. Her with a young man, James Bennett, smiling under the shade of an old oak tree. In every picture, they looked deeply in love. The letters revealed the rest. James Bennett had been Evelyn's first love. They had planned to marry and start a life together until Logan entered the picture. With his charm and ambitious promises, Logan had stolen Evelyn's heart and destroyed James's career, framing him for financial misconduct and leaving him disgraced and penniless. Claire's hands shook as she opened the final letter in the box. James, if you're reading this, it means I didn't dare to reach out before it was too late. I've always loved you, and I've always regretted what Logan did to you. But now, I've set things in motion to right those wrongs. The foundation I've built will not only empower others, but will also help restore your name. You deserve to see the truth come to light. If you still have any faith in me, please come to the reading of my will. There's more to say than this letter ever could. Claire's heart pounded. James Bennett wasn't just a figure from Evelyn's past. He was the final piece of her intricate plan. That evening, Claire prepared to share her discovery, but as she walked through the grand hall, she overheard raised voices from the study. Logan and Linda were arguing. "This is ridiculous," Linda hissed. "You're going to sit there and let her humiliate us from beyond the grave? You need to challenge the will." Logan, pale and drawn, snapped back. "You think I haven't thought of that? Do you realize what she's done? I don't even own most of this estate anymore. Everything is in her name. She's tied it all to that damn foundation." Linda's voice turned icy. "You're weak, Logan. No wonder she outsmarted you. Maybe I should have set my sights higher." Before Logan could respond, Linda stormed out of the study, brushing past Claire without a glance. Claire entered the study cautiously. Logan sat slumped in his chair, a drink in hand, staring blankly at the wall. His usual air of superiority was gone, replaced by something unfamiliar, fear. "She's ruined me," he muttered, more to himself than to Claire. "Every deal I ever made, every corner I cut. It's all in her hands now." Claire hesitated, then spoke. "Mrs. Carter left something behind, something you should see." Logan looked up, his eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about?" Claire stepped forward, placing the weathered box on the desk. It's not just about you, Mr. Carter. It's about the people you hurt. It's about Evelyn's love for the truth." Reluctantly, Logan opened the box. His face contorted with shock and shame as he sifted through the photographs and letters. "James Bennett," he whispered, the name tasting bitter. "He's coming to the foundation," Claire said quietly. "Evelyn made sure of it. She wanted him to see the empire you built crumble like you did to him." Logan slammed the box shut, his voice trembling with rage. "Get out, Claire. Leave me alone." But as she turned to leave, Claire caught a glimpse of something unexpected, a tear sliding down Logan's cheek. For the first time, it seemed, the weight of his actions was genuinely bearing down on him. That night, Logan wandered through the empty halls of the mansion, haunted by Evelyn's presence. He found himself in the main bedroom, where Linda's boxes of discarded belongings still sat. On the bedside table was a framed photo of Evelyn, her smile radiant and unbroken. "You always were 3 steps ahead," he whispered, his voice breaking. "And I never even saw it coming." As thunder rolled in the distance, Logan stood at the window, staring out at the garden Evelyn had nurtured with so much love. He couldn't shake the feeling that her legacy, like the storm outside, was only beginning to unfold. The day of the will's full disclosure dawned under an overcast sky. The Carter estate study, usually a grandeur room, was tense as key figures gathered. Logan Carter sat at the head of the room, his facade of confidence barely concealing the storm of emotions beneath. Linda Blake sat beside him, her polished exterior betraying the unease in her tightly crossed arms. Claire stood silently near the doorway, her presence overlooked as always, but her heart raced with anticipation for what was about to unfold. The lawyer, Mr. Benson, cleared his throat as he retrieved a small USB drive from his briefcase. Per Mrs. Carter's explicit instructions, this video message must be shown before any further details of the will are disclosed. The screen flickered to life, and Evelyn Carter's face appeared. Her expression was serene but commanding, her eyes radiating the quiet power that had defined her life. She wore her pearls, now hanging mockingly around Linda's neck. "Logan," Evelyn began, her voice calm but resolute, "I imagine you're beginning to understand the magnitude of what I've done by now. But don't mistake this for an act of revenge. This is justice, not just for me, but for every person whose life you manipulated, every deal you cut at the expense of others, and every lie you told to protect your empire of deceit." Linda shifted uncomfortably in her seat, but Evelyn's image continued, unyielding. "To those present, let me explain. Most of my estate, including the Carter property, the real estate business, and all associated assets, have been transferred to the Evelyn Carter Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to empowering women over 50 to rebuild their lives and pursue entrepreneurship. The foundation is the heart of my legacy, and it will thrive long after I am gone." Gasps filled the room, but Evelyn's voice silenced them. "Logan, you will retain 25% ownership of the company, but only if you fulfill one condition. You must work for the foundation for a year, teaching business and ethics classes to the women you once dismissed. If you refuse, everything, your shares, influence, and name, will be forfeited. Logan's face turned ashen. This is preposterous, he spat. But Evelyn was not done. Her image softened for a moment. And Linda, she said, her tone suddenly sharp, I hope the pearls you're wearing remind you every day of the truth you tried to bury. Those pearls were never a symbol of luxury. They were a symbol of trust, one that you have shattered. Linda shot up from her seat, her voice a rage and desperation. She's manipulating all of you from the grave. None of this is fair. Mr. Benson raised his hand. There's more. The video screen split, revealing a detailed timeline of Logan's fraudulent deals, Linda's manipulations, and records of James Bennett's downfall. Every unethical corner cut, every bribe, and every falsified document was meticulously cataloged. Evelyn's voice returned, cutting through the stunned silence like a knife. I've spent the last 40 years documenting everything. If you try to contest this will, the entire archive will be sent to the authorities. You will lose far more than money and your freedom. Logan slumped in his chair, his once impenetrable confidence shattered. Linda stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. But the room's attention turned toward Mr. Benson as he pulled out one final envelope. This is for James Bennett, he said, looking toward the back of the room. The door opened, and James Bennett, older but standing tall, stepped inside. His presence commanded the room. Logan froze, his eyes meeting James's for the first time in decades. I knew Evelyn never forgot, James said quietly, his voice steady but laced with emotion. James walked to the front of the room, his gaze unwavering. He looked down at Logan, who now seemed smaller, diminished in the face of his past. You destroyed my life, James said, calm but unrelenting. You framed me, took everything I had, and for what? To build this empire of yours? Logan opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. James turned to the others in the room. Evelyn never stopped fighting. She kept every piece of evidence, every document that could clear my name. And now, she's allowed me to set the record straight. Mr. Benson handed James the envelope Evelyn had prepared. Inside were signed affidavits, financial statements, and a letter addressed to James. He read it silently, his eyes glistening as he folded it back into the envelope. She always believed in second chances, James said, his voice breaking slightly. Even for people like you, Logan. Logan stood, his voice trembling. James, I didn't know it would come to this. James shook his head. You knew exactly what you were doing. But now, the only thing you can do is try to make things right. And that starts with teaching those classes. Evelyn believed you could still change. Prove her right, for once. The room fell silent as Logan sank back into his chair, his guilt heavy on his shoulders. As the sun dipped below the horizon that evening, Claire returned to the garden where Evelyn had planted her favorite roses. She knelt by the trellis, clutching the box of photographs and letters. James approached her, his steps measured, and knelt beside her. She told me to trust you, he said softly. She said you'd know what to do. Claire looked at him, her voice steady despite the emotions inside her. We'll make sure her legacy lives on. Not just the foundation but the truth. The truth she fought so hard to protect. James nodded, his eyes filled with both sorrow and gratitude. Evelyn was always the strongest person I knew. And now, it's up to us to carry that strength forward. As the stars appeared in the darkening sky, the garden seemed to glow quietly. The seeds Evelyn had planted, both in the soil and the hearts of those she left behind, were beginning to bloom. The storm looming over the Carter estate for so long was finally breaking, giving way to a new dawn. And with it came a promise. Evelyn's story was far from over. It was only just beginning. The next day, the Evelyn Carter Foundation officially opened its doors. The estate's once opulent ballroom had been transformed into a bustling learning space filled with computers, desks, and whiteboards. Women of varying ages, many over 50, gathered for their first workshop. Laughter and hopeful chatter filled the air, an energy that hadn't existed in the Carter mansion in years. Logan Carter sat at the back of the room, watching silently. Gone was the man who once commanded boardrooms with arrogance and cunning. In his place was someone quieter, humbled, yet still grappling with the weight of his failures. Grace Harper, a retired teacher and one of the Foundation's program directors, approached Logan with a clipboard. She was one of Evelyn's chosen leaders, a woman who had rebuilt her life after losing everything in a nasty divorce. "Mr. Carter," Grace said gently, "you're up next. The women are eager to hear from you." Logan hesitated, his stomach twisting into knots. Public speaking was never a problem for him before, but this was different. These weren't corporate executives or investors. Evelyn had believed in these women, and the last thing Logan wanted was to disappoint them. As he stepped to the front of the room, the conversations hushed. The women stared at him, some with curiosity, others with skepticism, a few with outright disdain. Logan cleared his throat. "Good morning," he began, his voice faltering slightly. "My name is Logan Carter. You probably know me as the man who built this mansion, this business empire. But today, I'm here because of Evelyn. She believed in second chances, even for someone like me." A murmur spread through the room, but Logan pressed on. "For years, I lived by the wrong principles: greed, ambition, power. I thought they were the keys to success. But Evelyn taught me that success isn't about what you own, but what you give back. And so, I'm here to teach you everything I know about business, not as a man who always got it right, but as someone who learned what it means to fail the hard way." The room remained quiet for a beat, and a single voice spoke. "Teach us then." It was Dorothy Chun, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s who had once been evicted from one of Logan's properties. She crossed her arms, her expression challenging. Logan nodded. "Let's get started." As the weeks passed, the Foundation thrived. Women who had once been overlooked and dismissed began to find their voices and build their dreams. Eleanor James, a widowed baker, launched an online cookie business that quickly went viral. Patricia Wong, a retired seamstress, created a line of handmade scarves that gained traction on social media. Each success story added to the Foundation's growing reputation. Logan, meanwhile, found himself changed by the experience. Teaching wasn't easy. It required patience, humility, and the ability to admit when he didn't have all the answers. But as he worked with the women, he began to see their potential and, in doing so, rediscovered his humanity. During a marketing workshop, Dorothy Chin approached Logan one afternoon during a break. "You know," she began, her tone softer than usual, "when I first saw you here, I thought this was just another of your schemes. But now, I think Evelyn might have been right about you." Logan smiled faintly. "She was always right." Dorothy studied him for a moment, then handed him a folder. "I found this in the old records Evelyn left behind. I think you need to see it." The folder contained photos and documents about Project Sunrise, one of Logan's most notorious real estate ventures. The project had been abandoned years ago after safety violations came to light, but these records told a different story. They revealed bribes, forged permits, and evidence that Logan had known about the violations long before the project was shut down. "This," Logan trailed off, his voice filled with shame. "This could ruin me. Or it could set things right," Dorothy said firmly. "Evelyn didn't keep this to hurt you. She kept it to remind you that the truth always comes out. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Logan stared at the documents, the weight of his past pressing down on him. He knew what he had to do. That evening, Logan called an emergency board meeting for the Foundation. James Bennett, Grace Harper, and other leaders gathered in the conference room. "I've come across something important," Logan began, holding up the folder. "These documents prove I knowingly allowed unsafe construction practices during Project Sunrise. People could have been hurt. People were hurt, and I covered it up." The room fell silent, the weight of his confession settling over them. James was the first to speak. "And what do you propose we do about it?" Logan took a deep breath. "We go public. We release everything, every bribe, every false document. The Foundation will lead the charge to ensure those affected are compensated and that this never happens again." Grace frowned. "You realize this could mean lawsuits, investigations, possibly even prison time for you." Logan nodded. "I do. But Evelyn believed in redemption, and if I honor her legacy, This is the only way. James leaned back in his chair, studying Logan. It's a start, he said finally. But redemption isn't just about admitting you were wrong. It's about making things right. The fallout from Logan's confession was swift. News of his involvement in Project Sunrise spread quickly, and the media descended upon the Carter estate. Critics called for his resignation from the foundation, while others praised his willingness to come forward. But Logan didn't back down. He used the platform Evelyn had left him to advocate for stricter building regulations and support for those impacted by the project. The foundation gained even more support as people saw its commitment to justice and integrity. In the following months, Logan found himself not just teaching but learning from the women, James, and the legacy Evelyn had entrusted to him. Slowly, the pieces of his shattered empire began to rebuild into something more substantial, something meaningful. And through it all, the echoes of Evelyn's voice remained, guiding him toward the man she always knew he could become. Logan Carter's transformation was no longer just a story of failure and redemption. It was a testament to Evelyn's belief that even the most broken lives could be rebuilt, one step and one truth at a time. Months passed, and the Evelyn Carter Foundation flourished beyond anyone's expectations. The former Carter Mansion, now the foundation's heart, bustled with daily activity. Women from all walks of life came through its doors, learning skills, gaining confidence, and building businesses. In the sunroom, Eleanor James oversaw the orders for her online cookie business, now supplying desserts to upscale cafes across the state. Eleanor's treats had gone from a local favorite to a regional success story, employing several other women from the foundation. Nearby, Patricia Wong's knitting workshops were filled. Her handmade scarves, now featured in a prominent fashion magazine, attracted national attention. Threads of Grace, as she called her line, symbolized elegance and resilience. Even Dorothy Chin, once one of Logan's harshest critics, had turned her eviction story into a housing advocacy program. Her work helped hundreds of families find stable homes, a powerful counterpoint to Logan's past as a ruthless landlord. Logan's journey. Logan Carter's transformation was perhaps the most unexpected. Teaching business classes had become more than an obligation, a source of fulfillment. Each day, he faced women who were skeptical, even hostile, but slowly, he won them over. One evening, a student approached him after a particularly spirited discussion on marketing strategies. "You're not who I thought you'd be," she said, her curious and respectful tone. Logan smiled faintly. "Neither am I." But the shadows of his past still lingered. Every success at the foundation reminded him of the harm he had caused before Evelyn's intervention. He had begun to understand that redemption wasn't a destination, but a journey he was still navigating. A surprise visit. One day, as Logan was reviewing a proposal for a new program, Grace Harper entered his office with an unusual guest. "Mr. Carter," Grace said, revealing James Bennett. James carried a folder and an air of quiet determination. Logan stood, his heart sinking slightly. "James," Logan said cautiously, "what brings you here?" James placed the folder on Logan's desk. "This," he said simply. Inside were documents related to Project Sunrise, but these were different. They detailed the mistakes and malfeasance and potential paths for reparations and rebuilding. "I've been thinking," James continued. "Evelyn believed in second chances. Maybe it's time I start believing in them too." Logan stared at the papers, his throat tight. "You want to help?" "I want to rebuild what you tore down," James said. "Not for you. For the people who lost everything. Evelyn gave me the tools. Let's use them." For the first time, Logan felt something close to hope. Together, they began drafting plans for the Sunrise Restoration Project, a bold initiative to repair the damage caused by the failed development and create affordable housing for families in need. A grand celebration marked the first anniversary of the foundation. The mansion's gardens, once Evelyn's sanctuary, now hosted the event. Roses bloomed under the evening sky, their fragrance filling the air as foundation graduates shared their stories. Eleanor's treats provided desserts for the guests, while Patricia's scarves were gifted as tokens of appreciation. Dorothy Chun gave a speech about her housing program, drawing applause and tears. Logan sat quietly at a table near the back, watching the lives Evelyn had touched flourish. For the first time in years, he felt real pride. Not for his wealth or status, but for the impact of something meaningful. Grace approached the podium, her voice steady and warm. Tonight, we celebrate not just success but transformation. This foundation was Evelyn's dream, and it has become our reality. Every story here tonight is a testament to her vision and the power of second chances. As the applause swelled, Grace added, "And now, we have one final message from Evelyn herself." Evelyn's final message. The screen flickered to life, and Evelyn's image appeared. She looked vibrant, her smile as warm as ever. "To everyone here tonight," she began, "thank you. Thank you for believing in this foundation, believing in yourselves, and proving that it's never too late to start over. Logan, if you're watching this, I hope you've learned that wealth is not in what we possess, but in what we share. Redemption isn't about erasing the past, but facing it and choosing to do better." And James. Evelyn's eyes softened. "I never stopped believing in you. I hope you find the peace you deserve." She paused, her voice growing stronger. "To all of you, remember this. True power isn't in taking, it's in giving. True success isn't measured in dollars, but in lives transformed. And true love endures." The screen went dark, leaving the audience in silence. Then, they stood one by one, applauding Evelyn's words and legacy. The closing moments. Later that night, Logan wandered into the garden. He found James standing by the old rose trellis, where Evelyn had buried the box that started it all. "She always loved this place," James said, his voice low. Logan nodded. "She built everything that matters. This garden, this foundation, this hope." James turned to Logan, his expression softer than before. "She saw something in you, even when no one else did. Don't waste it." As James walked away, Logan stood alone among the roses, the stars shining overhead. He touched the pearls now displayed in the foundation's hall, no longer a chain of deceit, but a symbol of renewal. Evelyn's legacy wasn't just in the buildings, the businesses, or the foundation. It was in the lives she had changed, and the man she had dared to believe could change too. For the first time in his life, Logan Carter felt something Evelyn had always hoped he would. As the Evelyn Carter Foundation entered its second year, the Sunrise Restoration Project began to take shape. The initiative, spearheaded by Logan Carter and James Bennett, aimed to rebuild the communities devastated by Logan's past actions. The first project site was the former location of Sunrise Estates, a failed housing development plagued by structural issues and safety violations. Logan, once a man who only saw profit margins, now walked the site alongside architects, contractors, and community leaders, listening carefully to their ideas and concerns. James took the lead during a community meeting, addressing families affected by the original project. "We're not just here to rebuild houses," he said. "We're here to rebuild trust. This time, it's not about cutting corners. It's about doing things right." The room was silent momentarily before a woman in the back spoke. "How do we know this isn't just another promise?" Logan stepped forward, his voice steady but tinged with humility. "Because this time, I'm not the one in charge. You are. Every decision, every plan. We'll make them together. This is your project, and I'm here to ensure you get what you deserve." Slowly, the skepticism began to lift. Families who had once cursed Logan's name began to see a man trying to atone for his past. The Sunrise Restoration Project symbolized hope for the community and Logan himself. A new chapter for the foundation. Back at the foundation, the ripple effects of Evelyn's vision continued to spread. The program graduates began mentoring new participants, creating a cycle of empowerment that grew stronger each month. Grace Harper proposed an expansion, opening satellite locations in neighboring states to reach even more women. The board approved the plan, and the Evelyn Carter Foundation soon became a nationwide movement. One afternoon, as the staff gathered to celebrate the groundbreaking of a new satellite location, Dorothy Chun approached Logan with an unexpected idea. "Logan," she began, "you should tell your story." Logan raised an eyebrow. "My story?" "Yes," Dorothy said firmly. "People need to hear about the mistakes you made, the lives you hurt, and the changes you've made. If someone like you can turn things around, maybe others will believe they can, too." Logan hesitated. Laying bare his past for the world to see was terrifying and freeing. But deep down, he knew Dorothy was right. The memoir. Logan began writing late at night, poring over memories that had haunted him. He titled the memoir Rebuilding from the Ashes, a journey of redemption. The process was painful, forcing him to confront the man he had been and the damage he had done. When the book was published, it sparked both criticism and praise. Some called it a self-serving attempt at redemption, while others saw it as a genuine effort to inspire change. Regardless, it became a bestseller, with all proceeds going directly to the foundation and the Sunrise Restoration Project. The book's success brought more attention to the foundation, and Logan traveled across the country, speaking to audiences about his lessons. He often quoted Evelyn's words, "True power isn't in taking, it's in giving. True success isn't measured in wealth, but in the lives we transform." The second anniversary of the foundation approached, and Grace Harper revealed that Evelyn had left one final surprise. She wanted this shared at the 2-year mark, Grace said, holding a sealed envelope. The staff and graduates gathered in the mansion's garden, now a flourishing sanctuary maintained by the foundation's landscaping program. Roses bloomed in vibrant shades, their scent mingling with the soft hum of conversation. Grace opened the envelope and unfolded a letter in Evelyn's elegant handwriting. "To my dear family, friends, and all who carry this vision forward. If you're reading this, it means the foundation has grown beyond my wildest dreams. You've taken what was once a small idea, a flicker of hope, and turned it into a beacon of transformation. But there's one more thing I want to leave behind, a promise. Logan, I knew you could change. I believed in you, even when you didn't believe in yourself. I hope you've discovered that redemption isn't a one-time act, it's a lifetime commitment. Keep going. Keep giving. James, you were my first love and remain one of my dearest friends. Thank you for your strength, forgiveness, and willingness to build something beautiful from the ruins of the past. To everyone who's been part of this journey, remember this. True wealth isn't in what we possess but in the lives we touch. The foundation isn't just my legacy, it's yours. Take care of each other. Build together. And never forget that light is always waiting to be found, even in the darkest times. Tears filled the eyes of those gathered as Grace finished reading. Standing near the back, Logan bowed his head, silently vowing to honor Evelyn's wish. A legacy fulfilled. That evening, the garden buzzed with celebration. Eleanor's cookies, now a national brand, were served alongside dishes from other graduates' businesses. Patricia gifted hand-knitted scarves to new foundation members, and Dorothy spoke passionately about the housing program's latest success. Logan found himself standing near James by the rose trellis. "She always believed in us," James said, his voice quiet. Logan nodded. "And she was always right." As the sun set and the stars emerged, Logan looked around at the thriving community Evelyn had envisioned. He felt truly at peace for the first time, not because he had ultimately redeemed himself, but because he was still trying, building, and giving. Evelyn's garden, foundation, and vision would endure, a testament to the power of love, forgiveness, and second chances. Her legacy wasn't just about transformation. It was about showing the world that something extraordinary could bloom even from ashes.